September Yorjava. Ati Tonima Gutuna, and September Yorjava Tela, the Sem Shava, the Namdog Chumari, the Namdog Chumatela, me, Tatangaransu, the Zunzi Isundawi, the Semte, Namdog Chumani, the Shurashim. Tela, the Titolo, but Dene, and a jeep cover, they be sending Rotrochi. The Mount Bessin and the Mavich. The Tate Semti Mola, and Tane, the Zoo would have tucked 100 Tajura, simple. Ta Zoo Cado Evla Soba Sequoia, Segre, around to Lavuritina, chance of contest energies.
Nous en venons à présent sur
We come back to the 4 applications of mindfulness, and this afternoon to the mindfulness of the mind. It means being attentive to what is going on in the mind. The mind is a continuum, a series of conceptual instances, or thoughts, that is incessant. When we are talking about the mind, we're talking about the dualistic mind, the dualism that is grasping at itself. And because there is a self, there is everything that is also other than a self.
Et implicitement concevant ces soi et autrui comme ayant substance. Maintenant, le placement de l'attention sur l'esprit consiste à observer.
Attention on the mind consists in observing the continuum of the mind.
Ici, donc, tout simplement observer en ce sens l'esprit, voir que les instants passés,
seeing that the moments of the past that existed in the mind no longer exist, and future thoughts do not yet exist either. This being the case, we look at the present moment. We look at the present moment of awareness. Let's look at this present moment of consciousness and see if it exists. How does it exist? Is it autonomous? Does it have a substance? Does it have a shape? Does it have a color? What is this present instant of consciousness like? We use all sorts of different aspects of what the instant of awareness or consciousness could actually look like, to understand just what sort of form it has, if it has any.
Appliquer votre propre réflexion là-dessus pour voir si il existe sous une forme ou une autre, d'une manière ou d'une autre.
Benada Gabo Serbo Mabolas Kado Ungul Patiena Yang Gabolas Semte Gavla Mabul Semte Mari Mabul Semte Gabola Semtevatin Rothavre, the Mabul Pass Sweet Chevre, and Tam Mabun Zimbati Mabo the Kora, somebody Mare, Mabo the Uri. She's a tin Zimbe and somebody condition to that. Rangi Susu Sembe Patena, the Susu Semba the Ransa Rang Shejimba, Rang Ramashena, Kataya Yon Sigma, this was a Rang Sheyor in the Hindu.
Alors, quand on observe pour voir si l'esprit a une couleur, par exemple, on peut
when we observe a moment of awareness,
penser à une couleur,
let's think about what color it might have.
Telle que la couleur
is it white, yellow, red,
et
pink?
Ensuite, observer
what color is this moment of awareness? If we think of this, for example, as white in color, then where is red? When you think of red, what happened to white? It's not present. We're just observing red. When we observe red, we no longer are observing white. So the mind that is observing colors is not the color itself, because color has to be an object. Otherwise, it would always be the same color. We then ask ourselves, what about the mind that grasps this color as being white or red, for example? What is the mind like then? The mind that is grasping what is being observed as having a certain color has awareness. It is able to experience, to have experiences. It perceives. Can it perceive itself? Yes, it can also perceive itself. So, as we say, it is a meta-consciousness, or meta-awareness. It is possible for it to be aware of itself. If it wasn't, then how could we talk about it? How could we experience any of it?
On ne pourrait parler de quoi que ce soit. On ne pourrait pas communiquer ni faire l'expérience de quoi que ce soit. Donc, de la même manière,
in the same way, we can look at a thought.
Le concept qui s'élève,
as soon as there is a thought or a concept that arises in the mind stream, we look at it in the same way.
De la même manière. C'est-à-dire, d'où est-il? Quelle est
Where
la
does it
nature de
come
ce
from?
concept?
Where does it go?
Existe-t-il toujours?
What is it like? Does it have a substance? Does it still exist as a concept? What happens when the thought is gone? What about the mind that is observing the thought? Is it the same or different than the thought that is being observed? We observe these thoughts.
디 다라 보길 내대고 말이 이나야 코란 공오디 아니 카야 근데 이다 가들어서 카케 투메가 대한 셰용래 근데 니 후대보다 나시 나티트가 말이 라르랑 살티 셰요
Lorsque l'on va observer ces concepts, on va voir que ces concepts n'existent pas en leur essence.
And when we observe these thoughts, we see that they have no substance. We can't say that they exist as some sort of permanent or autonomous thing. And yet, when we observe them, we can't say that there is nothing. But nor is there anything. There is not a vacuum there either. It is not as though you are in an empty room where there is nothing. You can't say that there is no thought. We are aware of thought.
Dans une sorte d'absence,
and we are aware that
rien,
we are aware of a thought.
Syncope. L'on a conscience de ce concept, on a d'être conscient de ce concept. Il y a l'aspect de la conscience qui est conscient d'elle-même.
심 장리 장사리 세로 딘데송 셰그리 딘제셰다 암요르 년체네 데sem나레 삼치리 디 안에 소스남도 간 파셈바나 시지파 블렌케 요고나 시지리 자지오마 딘데스요마 코란남도 다라 하코시 해하고시 되게 나네 남도 코란 하고요 봉바 가서 남도 코란 안에 입카도 강공오에 좀 셰용거래 녜탄데 공시 나시 니쿠데 나시 나트데 마인 바야 라시 코라 레디요르데 대송자 샹게 텐조 디 셰자 나시 셰외 나시 지 셰버신 티티간 바 implement or applying 지요 남도 코란 월 때니 남도 가르쳐 주는데 샤워든 항상 뇌심 버지 티토 따네 근데 대바이나 오늘 코란이 니중오만 오디 랑우트
Donc ici, dans les textes bouddhiques et dans les enseignements, vous entendrez différentes définitions d'esprit. Que l'esprit
mind is empty and it has no intrinsic existence. It is characterized by awareness, the possibility of perception and experiencing awareness. It is a meta-consciousness, which is aware of itself. Even though there are different ways of describing the mind, when we sit and practice the applications of mindfulness, We're not meant to take these descriptions and try to superpose them. We don't use them to describe the mind. It's not like a label that we are gluing to mind, as if we were to say, the mind is this, and it doesn't correspond to what we think of the mind. That's not the point. The point is to observe the mind. Just look at it and see what it truly is. When you do see it, then you'll really understand. It is possible for you to realize the true nature of mind. When thoughts and ideas arise, we say that they don't exist as such, nor are they completely devoid of any characteristics. Right within direct experience, you'll see this and realize the truth of this.
Et donc ici, si vous l'observez, vous verrez, vous comprendrez, vous viendrez à réaliser ce qu'il est, c'est-à-dire qu'il n'est ni comme lorsque les concepts s'élèvent, vous verrez que ces concepts n'ont pas d'existence en soi, qu'ils ne sont pas des autres figés, ayant un être autonome, ni que l'esprit est en sorte de rien, un blackout. Cela, vous le verrez directement dans l'expérience. Donc, dans la méditation du placement de l'esprit,
in the application of mindfulness, we're looking at the mind, and specifically, we're looking at the thoughts that are constantly arising within a mind stream. And we're going to look at them as they arise. We observe them to see what their nature is. What are they like? Where do they come from? Etc. Observation is the meditation. That is the application of the meditation regarding mind.
Donc ça, il s'agit là du placement de l'attention sur l'esprit.
남도 많이 베서 매봐야 말이 이매야 말이 남도 많이 베 넘버 또 오세요 가르치기로서는 유지 넘버 샤베 또 받을수요 암조 자지 트네야 자이 넘버 샤베 또 받을 미그 주지 토네 주지 넘버 샤베 또 받을 아니 루비 리자 뇽네야 리지 넘버 뇽이 또 받을 대 남도스 할 다테다 대나시 남도스 다티 남도티 디올 다샤디 유테당 다테당 서로한테 마인바 샘코랑 샘코랑 돌판도 뜨나 아니 샘장바 샘투이 샘장바 스미운데 티 샘텔라 나 가게 드리스치네 비에 도도지 무슨 좀 매봐 가도 입가에 무슨 좀 매봐 레디요 라주 대송장에 단다 샘디 샘베 심토는 따토바 이나 테네 하코용을 했어야 가르치기로서나 하코유 찍마도 요 말이 이나 하코도 한디 고그래서 안저 랍샤나 야 찍셔나티 샘바차도가 간세 디니시 랍샤바 랍샤바티 한데 샘바 잡는 데 마소 단 샘바 많이 봐 마주바 코랑 은혜 달리 싶고 다티 치르때 심당도 하거나 디겐지요
Donc, par concept, il faut entendre ici, c'est-à-dire
thought, concept, idea help us to describe the way things appear in the mind. The contents of the mind, you could say. Through our sense perception, for example, through the sight consciousness, there is perception of a physical object, and this appears. It appears within the mind stream. When the body is in contact with something, there's awareness of this. These are concepts. The perception of the mind is based on perception of something. And we can't say that perception or ideas or concepts can be separated from the mind. If the concept could be separated from the mind, it would be something material. What is mind? Mind is experience.
s'il y avait
Experience
des concepts qui
of
n'étaient
phenomena and of
pas de la
thoughts.
nature de l'esprit, alors
When we talk
le concept
about
serait
observing
quelque
the
chose de
mind,
matériel. Et
we are trying to see the
on ne va
mind
rien
as it
connaître,
is,
il ne serait pas
completely, in an autonomous manner, disassociated with everything that is grasped. We are not looking at the object that is grasped. We are looking at the mind which grasps. This is looking at the fundamental nature of mind itself. If we look at it, we see that there is actually nothing that can be grasped. There is no object, just no concrete object that can be grasped and called mind.
Autonomement, c'est-à-dire dissocié de tous les concepts, de tout ce qu'il saisit, tous les phénomènes qu'il saisit, qu'il conçoit, qu'il perçoit, qu'il se représente. L'esprit dans sa nature fondamentale, seul. Si on regarde, on verra qu'il n'y a en fait rien à saisir. Il n'y a pas une sorte d'objet concret que l'on puisse saisir, qui soit l'esprit. Non, c'est plus long que ce que dit Rinpoche.
He says it's longer than what Rinpoche said, sorry.
Donc, ce que Rinpoche disait, c'est que... Donc,
I don't know, longer, yeah? He's longer than me.
Ça doit être le français qui est comme ça.
Chinli Rinpoche says it must be the French that's like that.
En fait, au fond, on ne va pas vous dire, il y a ceci.
We cannot in the end say that it's like that.
On vient au
There
même
is
résultat quant à la compréhension de la
one
nature
thing
de
to
l'esprit, mais
know.
on
We
peut pas
come
vous
to the
dire,
same conclusion
c'est
when we
cela.
look
Parce
at
que
the
là,
nature of
si
mind
on vous décrit
and we
quelque
have a
chose, vous
realization
allez
of the
prendre
nature
cette
of mind.
description et essayer, comme
It
on
is
l'a dit tout à
impossible
l'heure,
to describe this.
d'ajouter
As
un
soon as you
rapier sur
describe
un vêtement,
something,
coller
it
quelque
is as
chose,
if you're
coller
sticking a
cette
label onto
définition contre
something
l'esprit,
that you
essayer
cannot
de
define as such.
représenter l'esprit par
What
ce
we can talk
médium, mais pas la
about,
voir
how it's
directement.
possible to
Donc en
observe
fait,
mind
si
and how mind works.
on vous explique comment
Through this process,
vous
one
pouvez
can
observer
recognize the
l'esprit
nature of
et
one's mind,
reconnaître tel
but we cannot
qu'il est,
describe mind's nature with any precision.
vous viendrez à le reconnaître tel qu'il est.
인지 민지직 너도 이통면은 따고요 말이 술때랑 토는 봤으면 또 never check고요. 남도 강샤네야 탐지 중투가 되지 단다. 당에 양자만 보시고. 다 뒤라 내봐야고 여네 내봐야고 여나 대 콤도. 안에 콤바 슈치림 신도 세르. 세르로.
Donc il faut
we need to use the method or the means for looking at the nature of the mind, and we will be able to observe it. Here, we want to observe it just as it is. The important thing is to see the concepts, see the representation. Try to see the nature of concepts beyond what we can observe as concepts. They do not truly exist. The important thing is to have stability in the mind. If you have stability, from that point on, this exercise can be pursued effectively.
De ces concepts, en saisissant, en observant les concepts et en voyant qu'ils n'ont pas d'être en soi. Et donc, l'important, c'est d'avoir une stabilité de l'esprit. Si vous avez une stabilité de l'esprit, à ce moment-là, ce travail pourra être accompli avec efficacité.
최세야 돼 시작 탐지였어요. 뒤인데 다 semke nesu tanda tetabu yunjumbu kyonchana 다 janala semke ngoshebi sharp chabrot kabachi yungre. 다 tanda jespa tone sanbaya madu ngusum gyamsu yongati yoma. 뒤인자 jespa tone sheba yina 다 율칸데지 이나야 다 죽다 테로 칸데지 이나야 디 넘버티 렌징이 와래 디 손잔데 까고 마블라서 챙겨 다 셈바티 코랑 고토를 따투 용디 디 유티 단다 셈벤 짐바텔을 조르 타데치 유티 셈벤 진단텔에 타데디 체 용디 베나 유다고 지로 차샤나 유티 베나디 갑서라고 지나 게 까유스야라고 지나 다 까유스의 명딩에 로 셈바 똑바디 게베인데 까유리 삼진 내려봐 까유기 다당 까유기 타니당 된징 로니가 니 유다 냠도 대체네 단딩에 값은 좀 말해 다디 남도티 심네 디 ngol 판주로 갑라 되니 유티 타니 löge pandres타에 타니 대양 마인바 semgin zindang teya mayin pa chik che dhudu ta yu korang tini ne tusa rebe dra teya ne tusa rebe dra rang ngo to ne tu rebe yu teya yu korang ngo to ne tu rebe samdang
dra tsik der son
dra sound
no
sound korang ngo to ne tu marwa pena sound chagina nyambu ina nge sembi nge lo di panzini nyembo zogor mado da koran nyembo chadi ma
also je sound son du me potig ming son chitan son
me nawe ship to da
also
di da lo toje terwa
also
dan chin chus
no
chi da de chus nge ge da ni labar ni
also
da chi khar labar so da to standa
no
yu ting du tani di da chi labar
no
da chi khawal labar sa amjo ko da
tan kagar ba
tingi to ka
no
chi Buddhist epistemology khaba
no so
di indu da amjo da ka da chashana da di da nyembo sana da tani sta so
no so
da nyembo mindu sana tani sta so marbe nyemba
no
da mi da chi da sana tani sta so di namdo de kaga chesa so na tani zan tani yuji tani di yo mare di tani yuji tani dan ken semba
no so
di chu kaga chesa sem koran kaga chesa da nyenda mini cheda meji di ganga di jato ne
no so
ne
kandin
the sound
no
when you say sound okay if you say sound okay this is sound of human or sound of animals or maybe a voice of cat or voice of dog or birds yeah that is entirely depends on how you perceive it. It depends on your mind to you and to me whatever I perceive is depends on me my mind not your mind I'm not depends on your mind. You may think it is cat, but I will think it is dog, yeah? Maybe. Okay, you may think that is beautiful birds, sound of beautiful birds. I may think it is ugly birds. That depends on me. So, depends on my mind, depends on my consciousness, how I perceive it. So, then I give a name, oh, it is a sound of good birds, bad birds, whatever. When you could make separate, totally free, okay, the sound is totally free of my grasping or my craving on it, my concentration on it, or whatever. Then, so far, good or bad to you can no longer exist by itself. Yeah? Can no longer exist by itself as well as what you see, what you feel, everything seen. Can no longer exist by itself. So all phenomena are like that. Through that, if you analyze or if you keep that understanding, that means then you will understand the reality of the phenomena.
Donc, maintenant nous venons à quatrième placement
We now come to explain the fourth of the four applications of mindfulness, being mindful of phenomena. What do we mean by phenomena? It is an object of knowledge, that is to say, anything that is perceived as an object by the mind. Essentially, they are objects of perception in terms of phenomena. The way that we describe the process of applying this mindfulness practice is going to be different from your direct experience of it. Whatever the object is, however we would describe it, you are going to observe it. It doesn't matter what this object of perception is. It exercises our capacity of inference. Just as we applied mindfulness on the mind, and thanks to this experience, we will be able to see the difference between the object of knowledge and the mind that is aware of it. What happens normally, when we don't think about it and we don't practice with it, is that there is a separation. There is a difference, or separation, between the mind that perceives and the object that is perceived. We can distinguish the different objects. We give it a name, we describe it, and we mix up the experience that we have of an object as being the object. Subsequently, our impression is that objects exist independently from the mind perceiving them. There are representations, ideas, functions. There is a name that we give to things, and we think that is the thing. What we are going to do here is to see what happens when we observe a phenomenon. We perceive it without all of those ideas about what it is. When we do that, we see that it can't possibly exist independently of the mind that perceives it. We ask ourselves the question, does it exist? Where does it exist? Inside? Outside? In the mind that perceives it? Where is it? Is it independent? Just to keep things in chronological order here, I'm going to reread what Rinpoche said about sounds. Let's take a sound. There may be sounds of humans, of animals, maybe the voice of a cat, or the voice of a dog, or birds. That depends entirely on how you perceive it. It depends on your mind. To you. To me, whatever I perceive depends on me, or my mind, not on your mind. I don't depend on your mind. You may think it's a cat, while I may think it's a dog. You may think that it's a beautiful bird. I may think that it's an ugly bird. The way I perceive it depends on me, on my mind, on my consciousness. Then I give it a name. It is the sound of good birds, bad birds, etc. When you are able to totally separate the sound and make it free of your grasping of it, your concentration on it, whether it is good or bad to you, it can no longer exist by itself. It is the same with what you see or feel. It can no longer exist by itself. All phenomena are like that. If you analyze in this way and gain that understanding, it means that you will understand the reality of phenomena.
Un animal, un oiseau, etc. Et l'on va associer un concept, un nom à ces différents sons. Mais indépendamment de ces conceptions, de ces représentations que l'on applique à ces phénomènes, est-ce que ce son existe-t-il en tant que un son qui soit agréable, bon en ce sens, ou mauvais, autonomement? On ne pourra pas trouver ce son existant tel qu'on se le représente en tant que tel, autonomement dans une réalité au sens ultime. Non.
When you,
non.
Okay, as I just explained to you, so when you become good on the mindfulness, and then you will be able to. Phenomenal samadhi, Quran sutu netu.
Yes.
This one's tamji melam the yumada char where pay manguchi shagwa.
Yes.
It isn't shaggy or pena miller de begi. Chumia, simi nam, chum timia sim, tim sumia to the gun.
Yes. Donc, lorsque l'on a
once we have practiced the application of mindfulness on mind and have trained, we gain some experience. And it is quite easy to extrapolate.
Donc, le placement de l'attention sur l'esprit, lorsque cela a été fait correctement, ensuite, l'on va pouvoir procéder au placement de l'attention sur les phénomènes. Donc,
we can begin to look at and meditate with the application of mindfulness with regard to phenomena. Phenomena are perceived as existing outside of oneself, as something external to oneself. The reflection, the analysis that we proceed with will be the same as in other applications. That is to say, what is grasped? We thus reach the conclusion that nothing outside of us is autonomous and can exist by itself. Nevertheless, we see that mind plays an important role. All our perceptions are dependent on the mind that perceives them. We can almost say that everything that appears is like a dream or a mirage. All the different examples we use as an illusion. How we perceive depends very much on the mind which perceives, much more so than on the object of perception itself. So something that appears, or rather everything that appears based on the mind. Milarepa said, phenomena appear from the mind stream, and they are reabsorbed or disappear into the mind stream. They arise from the mind, and they fade away into the mind.
Zundu tinte chene tene jun tanda chamba nyawar jawa ji di nyamle tene tene chongba yina wande jobo li ya rebu ya tene rebu tembe rewa da mi tembe toba zan ma je chen de chi chongda na tene sangme yabu charona.
Alors, en bref, il faut pratiquer
in short, all four of the different applications of mindfulness should be practiced in this way. It is important for us to be diligent, just like the image of a horse that is grazing in the grass. As soon as it has a moment, he starts grazing again. When we put the four applications of mindfulness into practice, we should be persistent or diligent in the same way as this horse. If we do this practice, there will be results. We will be able to attain realization of the practice. It is important to practice without hope and fear, without having any hope of attaining certain results, or the fear of not attaining them. The important thing is the path and putting it into practice. One of the problems that may arise for practitioners of this sort, of practice, is that they study the different subjects with the idea how they are going to explain it to others afterwards.
Un des problèmes que l'on rencontre avec les pratiquants, c'est qu'ils qu'ils étudient ces différents sujets en ayant à l'esprit comment ils pourront ensuite expliquer ce qu'ils ont compris.
This means that their practice is going to be intellectualized, conceptualized, in order to retransmit it to others. But that is not what is important. The important thing here is to put it into practice with one's own experience, to apply the instructions and put them into practice, and not just to have a concept about them or ideas about them. This could be an obstacle to avoid.
Ça peut être un obstacle qu'il faut éviter.
Thank you. Refugee wow refugee wow 좀 된데 꾸이 동대나 배가 송자되나 니긴 뒤는 나라 주인라 듬버피 근데 연라 듬버풀 차비기 제르데 니 총네 잡순더에 dombal래 근데 진짜 싫어요.
À présent,
Now it's time for the refuge vows.
Il est question d'une prise de refuge. Donc nous allons auparavant, puisque nous avons le privilège d'être en présence.
This is a very auspicious time to take refuge vows because we have the relics of the Buddha here. So for the people who will take refuge vows for the first time, they can do so in front of these precious relics of the Buddha. We'll take the occasion to recite the 7-branch prayer, which will be followed by the refuge ceremony or ritual in the presence of the relics of the Buddha.
Shinye soda juju jene noan duzun jiba miye dage male deda tamche la gyudam aye tame zongro jebe manan dage yawa tamche hije muzu shinge denye dawa gönje sena kala ya deda gönje jeze daye Ona joje jide roma da jonje ramba sanje manja Gemba de da ge danje la kola la na me ba goa Nyange da de gonje de da la roa kola be je de ve Lava shinge de nye je ba yon da ge na ma ra jo so wa Shanza wa danje je jo ba danje se ye rang ge je so wa Gewa juze dage juzam, tanje dage junje je ngo